Hi, this is Steve Anderson from Apologia. Apologia is a website consisting of recorded video slash audio conversations with many of my Facebook friends. Today, I am speaking with J.D.Dolan. J.D. lives in Kalamazoo, Michigan with his wife Kat and his son. He is a professional writer, and now I introduce you to J.D. Dolan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you, Steve?
Well, good. I am just so happy to, have the chance to talk to you. And we've actually communicated in the past for a different purpose, and now we're here to talk about your writing, so which I'm pretty excited about. Again, welcome, and we got about 15 minutes to talk, so I don't want to talk too much. I'd rather learn from you, but I would like to know what prompted you to become a writer in the first place.
I think somehow I always wanted to write, but I got kicked out of the advanced English class when I was in the fourth grade, and I had been rewriting a story. I was working really hard on this thing, and I think probably since then I've always been trying to write my way back in.
Oh, well, I'm so used to being kicked out of places that was pretty common in my life. So basically, you're just showing that teacher or whomever that, boy, were you wrong. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, I got kicked out because I was rewriting a story, and I was really working on it. I'd really worked on it a lot, and instead of saying, "Oh, you're rewriting it, good for you," she booted me back to the regular class, which was pretty boring. So,
Okay. Yeah. So do you have a love of reading as well?
Mhm.
Uh, those two things go hand in hand for the most part. But are you a pretty habitual reader?
Yeah, not as much while I'm working on my own stuff. It's hard to concentrate. Uh,
Sure.
but yeah, I love to read.
Yeah. I'm a binge reader. I'll go a month or two without reading, and then all of a sudden I'll get real frenetic, and I just want to read and devour as much as I can. So it's interesting how all of us have this way of trying to educate ourselves. But
Hmm.
I noticed in the background it's furniture I'm just not familiar with. What do you got back there,
That
JD?
back there, that's a Diamond 9 foot Pro-Am.
Oh, that's wonderful. How long have you had that?
Ooh, probably 13, 14 years.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's great. Do you still play quite a bit?
Yeah, it's a nice thing to have in my studio. It helps my writing more than it helps my pool game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully I can come down and we can play a game, and you can, I don't know if you like straight pool. You have to spot me maybe 25, something like that. But
I love straight pool. I always end up playing one pocket.
oh, okay. Okay, that's certainly not one of my favorites, but it's your place, and so if you ever invite me over, I will play one pocket.
I'd like
So,
to learn
oh,
three cushion.
oh, well, see, and then you come to my place, and I have a three cushion table, an old Brunswick.
Oh,
So
really? So it's not heated, huh?
it is heated.
Oh,
Yes, I have it thermostatically controlled, and so yeah, yeah,
nice.
absolutely. It's an anniversary if you know that model.
Sure.
So what got you interested in pool?
Um, there was a big pool table. I think it was a 10 footer it was just gigantic in the Masonic Lodge where my dad was a member. And I would go in there when I was a kid, when I was just big enough to, roll the balls around. And I loved it. It was fascinating. And I didn't really start playing until I was older. I was probably in my late 20s.
Sure.
And it wasn't until later still that I started getting some lessons and um, learning more about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic game. Well, there's the connection right there. You're a excellent writer. You love the game of pool, and putting those things together gives us a new novel that you have already completed, if I understand. Is that fair to say?
Oh, it's been in various stages of completion for a couple of years now. I'm working on revisions for what I hope will be the last draft.
Okay. So the novel is on Ralph Greenleaf. Can you tell me who is Ralph Greenleaf and why would you write a book about him?
Ralph Greenleaf is regarded by many people as the greatest pool player of all time. He came of age when straight pool was invented by Edward Ralph in about 1915. Greenleaf was about 15 then. He was already Illinois state champion. He had became a finalist uh, in the World Straight Pool Championship.
Okay.
So he was a contender from the time he was a kid. He didn't win his first World Championship until he was 19, and that was in 1919. Um, but straight pool was really exciting. The old game of shoot all the balls in, and then they'd
Sure.
re-rack everything, and then it would be a bunch of safeties. And straight pool was exciting. It was kind of the game of its times. Everybody was setting records. Babe Ruth was hitting home runs, and people were setting records for transatlantic crossings in ships and motorboat races and uh, everything. Everybody was really conscious of setting records. The stock market was taking off,
It was almost
and
zeitgeist or something
yeah,
during that era.
and pool was extraordinarily popular. New York City had 5,000 licensed pool rooms at that time. If you imagine that, that's more than they have Starbucks there right now.
Yes.
Every place had pool tables. The hotels would have pool tables. The YMCA, the Corinthian Club, the track club. Uh, every place had pool tables. The barber shop, the drugstore, every place had pool tables, and they functioned as a kind of social center for each little area. And it was like that all over the country. It was huge. Brunswick was a huge corporation. They were like Nike or Apple. And Greenleaf was their star. But the thing about Greenleaf that I found interesting is that he was a chronic alcoholic during this time. And this is at a time when there were a lot of chronic alcoholics during uh, Prohibition. It was almost a patriotic duty to go out and drink.
Indeed.
Um, and he did. And he pretty much drank himself to death. But his rise and his fall pretty much chart the rise and the fall of the game of pool. And it's never really recovered since then. There have been two. Uh, he died in 1950.
Yes.
There have been two resurgences since then. One was when The Hustler came out
Indeed.
in early 60s, and then the second one was in the 80s when The Color of Money came out.
Yes.
Aside from that, it's been flat. All the other stuff that you see about pool, when you see guys, when they're trying to dress up in tuxedos and
Right.
and look like they've cleaned themselves up for the game, that's who Greenleaf really was. He really did wear handmade suits. He always dressed like that. He always looked great. He made a fortune. He never had to hustle. He would play money games when he went to a town. He would always find the best player and he would give them weight. He always did that. He sought out the best players. Even there was an African American player, a great player in Harlem, and there was sort of a racial barrier there,
Oh, sure.
uh, and he went up and played him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
But
Yeah.
he was a dazzling guy, but I don't think he would have been who he was without his wife. And she was a vaudeville star. She was half British and half Chinese. Her stage name was Princess Nete Te, the
Yeah.
Oriental Nightingale, and she just loved Ralph to death, till his death too.
Didn't she travel with him and became part of the show sometimes?
She came up with the idea, I think, of doing the vaudeville circuit. Although a lot of people were doing vaudeville. Babe Ruth did vaudeville. A lot of sports stars would come out and tell a few
Sure.
anecdotes, and Greenleaf and his wife did that. They had the table mechanic from the Hudson Recreation traveled with them, and they would had a table brought out on a low riser,
Oh, okay.
and then they had these gigantic mirrors that would come down over the stage, presumably so that everybody could see. But it was really kind of terrible. If you were sitting out there, you weren't sure if you were supposed to be looking at the table
Up,
or up
down.
at the mirrors. So it was really awkward. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it was a great show, but it didn't matter. They just wanted to see him.
Exactly. Wow. Well, it was, of course, obviously I'm 65, so I was born in 53. So, I was born 3 years after he died. But having read all of the different characters that lived during that time, uh, McGurty might be a classic example of the opposite of Greenleaf, not in the sense that they weren't both alcoholics, because they clearly were, but McGurty was down and dirty, and if he could cheat anybody out of anything or hustle, if he was losing and he had to, go into the bathroom and go out the bathroom window, he would do that. Where Greenleaf was more classy and had a certain professional way about him. In a
It's like
sense,
it's like comparing Michael Jordan to a guy who plays pickup games at a city park. I mean, there's really no comparison between the two. Um,
and
he,
McGurty dressed very well
mhm.
and looked the part until he opened his mouth.
So did Damon Runyon's characters.
Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. So what a bunch of characters.
And
I
on along those lines too,
Yeah,
Fats, who everybody knows about,
of course,
idolized Greenleaf. McGorty uh, admired Greenleaf too. All those guys did, everybody. But he was in a different class, even from the players who were fantastic.
sure.
Uh, During that era, for most of the really about 20 years that he was world champion, um, the only time he didn't win is when alcohol got the best of him.
Oh, oh,
And he could still play drunk. Probably that was the thing that ultimately killed him, is that he could still make money. He could run 100 balls drunk.
yeah. Well, that's one of the bad things about some alcoholics is they can still perform. They can still do their job. They can still maintain their marriage. They can still perform, like you mentioned, as a professional pool player or billiard player, drunk. And
Yeah,
that's actually to their demise because they don't get
yeah,
the punishment for destroying their body until it's
right,
too late.
right.
So, that's the good and bad of that whole thing. Well, I'm really excited about when your novel will be out. Can you, and we're not going to hold you to this because a lot of things, frankly, are probably not in your control. to a degree because of the publisher. But all things considered equal, the way things tend to go, can you project a time frame when you think it might be available?
Well, I hope to get my work done in the next month or so here, and then get it to my wonderful new agent, Lisa Bankoff,
Okay.
and then it will be up to publishers. And there's a certain amount of time that takes,
Uh-huh.
and then it has to go into production, which can take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years.
Oh,
If it was a very topical political book, they might be able to rush something up, but this isn't that kind of thing.
well, great. Like I say, I'm looking forward to it. Uh, uh, and I appreciate very much you taking the time out to have this conversation. We do have to get together and talk pool and billiards, and we'll have to share each other's table and get together. So I want to thank you very much, JD, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. I
All
look forward
right.
to it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Bye bye.